The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry wasps as Margaret Chen watched her 8-year-old daughter Emma tap her white cane against the marble floor of the prestigious Riverside Academy. Each gentle tap echoed through the empty hallway, a sound that had become the soundtrack of their lives since Emma lost her sight in a car accident 2 years ago. Margaret's heart clenched as she observed her daughter's careful navigation through a world that had suddenly turned dark, knowing that no amount of money or influence could restore what they had lost. Margaret had fought tooth and nail to get Emma enrolled at Riverside Academy, one of the most exclusive private schools in Boston. As the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, she wielded considerable power and had used every connection to ensure her daughter received the best education possible. The school's promise of inclusive learning and specialized support for children with disabilities had seemed like a lifeline. But now, 3 months into the school year, Margaret was beginning to question whether she had made the right choice. The trouble began with Carlos Martinez, the night janitor. A quiet man in his 50s with calloused hands and a worn baseball cap, Carlos had worked at the academy for nearly a decade. Margaret first noticed him during one of her late evening visits to discuss Emma's progress with her teachers. While she waited in the hallway, she observed Carlos methodically cleaning the windows, his movements careful and deliberate. There was something almost meditative about the way he worked, as if each task carried deep significance. Everything changed the night Margaret decided to pick Emma up late from the after-school program. As she approached the building, she noticed an unusual glow emanating from one of the classroom windows. Concerned about a possible security breach, she hurried inside, her heels clicking sharply against the polished floor. Following the light, she discovered Carlos in Emma's classroom, holding what appeared to be a small flashlight, moving it in slow, deliberate patterns through the air. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" Margaret's voice cut through the silence like a blade. Carlos startled, nearly dropping the light. "Mrs. Chen, I can explain." "Are you shining that light at my daughter?" Margaret's protective instincts flared as she saw Emma sitting at her desk, her face turned toward the dancing beam of light. "She's blind." What possible purpose could this serve except to mock her condition? "No. Say A tilde plus minus or R. You don't understand," Carlos began, his accented English thick with emotion. But Margaret was beyond listening. The stress of the past 2 years, the constant worry about Emma's adjustment, the sleepless nights wondering if she was doing in or UFO, it all crystallized into fury at this moment. Here was a grown man, someone entrusted with caring for the school environment, apparently taunting her vulnerable daughter with something she could never fully experience. "Security," Margaret called out, pulling out her phone. "I want this man removed from the premises immediately." Emma's small voice cut through the tension. "Mama, wait, not now, sweetheart," Margaret said, wrapping her arms protectively around her daughter. "We're leaving." Within an hour, Margaret had contacted the school principal, the district superintendent, and the cleaning company that employed Carlos. By the next morning, Carlos Martinez was unemployed, his decade of service erased by a single phone call from one of the school's most influential parents. For 3 weeks, Margaret felt vindicated. She had protected her daughter from what she perceived as cruelty disguised as curiosity. Emma seemed to adjust to Carlos's absence, though she had grown quieter, spending more time alone during breaks. Margaret attributed this to her daughter's natural resilience, never suspecting there might be more to the story. The truth emerged during a parent-teacher conference with Mrs. Patterson, Emma's favorite instructor. The elderly teacher had taught at Riverside Academy for 30 years and had a reputation for speaking her mind, regardless of a parent's social status or financial contribution to the school. "I need to discuss Carlos Martinez with you," Mrs. Patterson said, her voice measured but firm. Margaret's jaw tightened. "I thought that matter was resolved." "Far from it, Mrs. Chen. Do you know why Carlos was in that classroom with Emma?" "To mock her, obviously. To shine lights at a child who can't see them." Mrs. Patterson shook her head sadly. "Carlos has a grandson, Diego, who lost his sight in a construction accident 3 years ago. Carlos has been learning techniques to help visually impaired children develop their remaining senses." "The light you saw wasn't mockery, it was therapy." Margaret felt the world shift beneath her feet. "What?" "Carlos discovered that Emma could detect light and shadow, something her previous doctors had missed. He was using a specialized technique called light perception therapy to help strengthen her remaining vision." Emma had been making remarkable progress. The teacher pulled out a folder filled with notes written in careful handwriting. Carlos documented everything. Emma could distinguish between different intensities of light, could sense when objects passed in front of bright sources. He believed she might have more functional vision than anyone realized. Margaret's hands trembled as she read Carlos's meticulous observations. Each entry showed a man dedicated to helping a child he barely knew, someone who saw potential where others saw only limitation. His broken English couldn't hide the hope and excitement in his words as he described Emma's small but significant improvements. "Where is he now?" Margaret whispered. "Working 3 jobs to support his family. The cleaning company blacklisted him after your complaint. He's doing overnight shifts at a grocery store, morning shifts at a gas station, and afternoons helping his neighbor with construction work." That evening, Margaret sat Emma down for a conversation she should have had weeks earlier. "Emma, what was Mr. Carlos doing with you in that classroom?" Emma's face brightened for the first time in weeks. "He was helping me see better, Mama." "Not see, but see." He said I had special eyes that could catch light like a butterfly net catches butterflies. Tears streamed down Margaret's face as Emma continued. "Mr. Carlos told me about his grandson Diego, and how they play games with light and shadow. He was teaching me the same games. I was getting really good at them, Mama. I could tell when you were coming down the hallway because your shadow changed the light before I could hear your shoes." Margaret felt her world crumble and rebuild simultaneously. Her drive to protect Emma had blinded her to the very help her daughter needed. In her rush to shield Emma from perceived cruelty, she had destroyed an act of genuine compassion. Finding Carlos took 2 days of detective work. Margaret finally located him at the construction site where he worked afternoons. When she approached, his face showed no anger, only deep sadness. "Mr. Martinez, I owe you the most profound apology." Carlos removed his hard hat, his eyes wary. "Mrs. Chen, I misunderstood what you were doing with Emma. I let my fear and protectiveness cloud my judgment, and I cost you your livelihood. I'm here to make this right." For the next hour, Carlos explained his techniques, his voice growing animated as he described Emma's progress. He showed Margaret videos of his grandson Diego, now thriving in his own school program, demonstrating the light perception exercises that had helped him develop remarkable spatial awareness. "Emma has gift," Carlos said simply. "She see light where doctors say she cannot. I only want to help her use this gift." Margaret's heart broke and soared simultaneously. She had spent 2 years mourning what Emma had lost, never considering what her daughter might still possess. The following week brought dramatic changes. Margaret personally called every member of the school board, the cleaning company, and anyone else involved in Carlos's dismissal. She didn't just get him reinstated as she arranged for him to work directly with Emma and other visually impaired students as a specialized aide, with proper training and compensation. But the most profound change came in Margaret herself. She began joining Carlos and Emma's sessions, learning to see her daughter not as someone diminished by blindness, But as someone developing extraordinary abilities, Emma's world expanded beyond what anyone had thought possible. She could navigate familiar spaces with increasing confidence, distinguish between different people by the way they moved through light, and even began learning to ride a bicycle with Carlos's patient guidance. 6 months later, as Margaret watched Emma confidently cross the school playground, guided by her enhanced light perception and spatial awareness, she realized that the greatest lesson had been her own. Sometimes protection comes not from shielding someone from the world, but from helping them discover their unique way of engaging with it. Carlos had seen what no one else could, and not Emma's limitations, but her hidden potential. In trying to fire him for his kindness, Margaret had nearly extinguished the very light that was helping her daughter shine. The experience taught her that true advocacy sometimes means stepping back and allowing others to offer the help you cannot provide yourself. Emma's laughter echoed across the playground as she successfully completed another light perception game with Carlos. In that moment, Margaret understood that the most profound act of love isn't protecting someone from their challenge, so it's helping them discover their own unique strength to overcome them.